Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Garden State HSWrestling.com Near Fall Backpoints podcast. I'm here at my palatial North Carolina estate, my summer home, if you will. I allow the help to take care of it every now and then, but we're down here. We're on remote, but we're going to bring you a big week of wrestling. Obviously, if you've been paying attention, the news just broke about some teams having gotten the shutdown with COVID and how that'll affect the individuals. Is obviously the time they have left before the individual tournaments start. We'll see. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about my wrestler of the week, who had a really great time the other day and winning his 100th. And we're also going to talk a little bit about my top 10. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about my sponsor, the main man, Dan Warnikoff, Champion Athletes. Everybody wants to talk about what it takes to be an athlete. It's the training, yes. Nutrition is a huge part of that, and Dan Warnikoff is a huge proponent of that. His food and his meal preparation has helped athletes like Pat Gordy, who swears by him, because don't forget, Pat Gordy, his first 2 years, finished in states but didn't win. He credits Dan Warnikoff with that, with him helping getting him in the right mindset with the food. He helps all athletes. He helps non-athletes. Interstate, he does stuff in New York, he does stuff in Florida, he does stuff in Jersey. I mean, it's the man you want to talk to if you want to keep that proper weight and feel good. Because like I said before, when I wrestled, I was fat. And other people, they were trying to cut weight. They would be wearing plastic bags. It was unhealthy, and they mess with their metabolism. This is a safe, easy way. Give him a shot. Champion Athletes. You'll love it. Dan Warnikoff, he's the man. Now, let's get a little bit to the big news. And we're going to be talking a little bit to one of the coaches who's affected by it. COVID has struck again. For all the big, rewards and everything, as far as the big win by North Hunterdon the other day against Peaburg, pretty much clinching the conference title, they were hit by some bad news. They were shut down by COVID recently. Somebody tested positive. So now they're going to try to see what they can do. They joined Hunterdon Central, who's already in a pause. As a matter of fact, Hunterdon Central's in a pause. North Hunterdon's in a pause, and then it's also going to have Warren Hills just coming back, Sparta just coming back, High Point just coming back, and Pope John coming back. So COVID has played a really messy game and wreaked some havoc on the early schedules, as you can tell by some of the insane matchup changes and such. It's just been completely crazy. But we're going to wind up talking to Coach Hrunka here in a few minutes and kind of get his thoughts on everything. And we knew this was going to happen. We didn't understand it was going to be on such a grand scale. And, hopefully they'll get enough time that they can get their individuals, ready for the tournament coming up here. I think it's April 17th in that range. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these schools, when they start getting back, just to keep some of these kids away, you're not going to get the best, and top stars wrestling, because they want to keep them clear so they can get them for a run in the tournament. But we'll see how that goes. Now, let's go to my wrestler of the week. Somebody who made history by winning his 100th, but also by actually doing it outdoor on his football field. Austin Jack of Jefferson. They had one of the, if not the first matchups out on the football field against North Warren, which they won. And Austin Jack won. It was his 100th. And I know Austin, great baseball player as well. I always try to get him for my all-star match, but he's busy with baseball. I understand. Give me it this year, Austin. One time. But congratulations, Austin. We'll have a little blurb up on the site and such tomorrow. We'll get that up there tomorrow or Wednesday once everything's done. Another congratulations. I couldn't name him my wrestler of the week, but really big milestone. Kittatinny's John Gill won his 600th match, only the fifth coach in state history to do that. And he did it against a rival who, he's had some issues with, and in division with High Point, who, like we said, just started up again after COVID. But congratulations to John Gill. We're talking about somebody who started there in the early 80s. So when I wrestled there, he's the coach. I know other people, he's an institution up there and one of the nicest coaches you could ever meet. So congratulations, Coach Gill. You deserve this, and we're proud of you. And, like I said, you've always been really nice with me with the quotes and always shake my hand, say hello. And it's always great, you remember, we talk with the press and thank you again. And like, as a person who's covered you for the last 12 years, it's been a pleasure. And to see you get that 600th is just a milestone I know you were aiming for. Now, we're going to switch to the top 10. I got to do this quick with the top 10 because the way teams have been losing, I've been switching my top 10 like crazy. So we're going to try to get everything in order. We're going to start with our first in. Now, this is a team that I wasn't sure about. They lost early, but they impressed me with against a young Roxbury team. Newton. I like Newton as my first in. So they've done well. Number 10, Pequannock. I know they lost a tough one to Hanover Park, but I'll tell you what, Coach Lopaglia has that team doing really well. They couldn't fill two weights. I think it might have been a different story if they had a full lineup, but Pequannock, I got number 10. Making their debut, Hackettstown. Now, Hackettstown has had a great season so far. They were a little young, and I was looking at they had some quality kids, but I wasn't sure where they ranked in top 10. They've been reeling off some impressive wins, and I think that's why they kind of vaulted in, and they kind of opened my eyes. And I know they were one of my first ones in last week, so we'll see how that works. Next one is Mendham. But, had a good start. The problem is Mendham's faced some really good squads in their division, so the record doesn't indicate how good I think they are. And like I said, I think they'll wind up, evening out. Number 7, Hanover Park. Wasn't sure once again about Hanover Park. I know they lost some guys. They have some quality wrestlers returning, but I was still a little nervous about where they were. I think they're kind of kicking it on, and I can see them, making a run here. So Hanover Park, I got number 7. Number 6, this is where number 6 and 5, I'll see how they work. But number 6 is Jefferson for now. Like I said, they had a really good match the other night. They're really good. I think they have a solid squad. They have a bunch of seniors. They would be a favorite if it was, one of the top teams if there was a team tournament. But they're there, and I could see them possibly switching spots to the next team. But we're not sure. Pope John. I'm not really sure where I rate Pope John. I know Shane Pursley is hurt. We'll see how fast he gets back. That hurts the lineup, obviously. But Pope John, I got number 5. Number 4 was my number 2 team last week after the first match. They lost to Kittatinny, which is slouch, but it's High Point. Had to drop High Point a little bit. You first match out, you lose. It was a tight one, but understandable. They drop a little bit. The team that beat them, Kittatinny, they move up. They make a big jump to number 3. They said 600th win, an upset, and they were far enough away. I know it was only 6 points, but they were up from what I remember 9. I think they clinched it the next to last bout. So Kittatinny made a real statement there and basically, put that division on notice. Number 2, Mount Olive. They've already lost to Delbarton, who's clinched their division, but, has a really good group of young guys. Should be around for a while. But they're my number 2. And number 1, Delbarton. Delbarton's the top team. I don't think that's going to change. They got a couple big matches coming up. Bergen Catholic, I think they got coming up. There's one I'm drawing a blank against a really good team. It's an outdoor match as well. I think it might be St. Peter's Prep, but don't quote me on that. But I know there's a match coming up. But that'll be a big one we got coming up. But we got Coach Hrunka ready. Let's go to that interview right now. Joining me tonight is a man who's been on a really roller coaster of emotions this week, from the highs on Tuesday to finding out about what's going on this week. Coach Hrunka from North Hunterdon, thank you for joining me.
Yep. Glad to be here.
Tell me a little bit about, what's going on. I know you guys obviously had your big match against Peaburg. Talk about that. Just I know you guys have been on a really good run with Peaburg the last few years, just how it felt, especially in this season, being able to go out there and beat a rival.
Well, it's certainly exciting. It's always, you can't say it any other way. It's always exciting to beat Peaburg. They're obviously a top state caliber team every single year. So, being able to compete and beat them the last few instances is great. You can't be upset about that. That's for sure. They're a tough team. Anytime you can go out and take one off of them is great. Their youth program's solid. Their high school coaches obviously have it down. It's been year and year and year again that, they've won however many sectional titles out of the last, 50 years.
A lot.
Yeah. They've only lost a few, I think, which is pretty tough. And I know North traditionally has lost quite a few to them. So it's tough. It's tough to wrestle against them every year, but we're on a good run. We're happy about it. We're not taking it for granted, obviously. They're a good team. And, you know, we're excited about where we're at as a program, but we're certainly not resting on our laurels.
Now, you guys obviously, that match any other year is going to be a packed gym. You're going to have kids crammed in. How was it wrestling them and having it not have that atmosphere? Because I mean, the last few years have been such a thrill as far as just the fan participation. And was it just super eerie having that match?
Yeah, it's certainly different. It's definitely different. And, you know, it was a different feeling going into the match than we had the last two matches for sure. And our kids, you know, they had a different feeling going into it too. And I think as a staff, we had a different philosophy a little bit. You know, last couple of times we wrestled them, it was about, you know, kind of hyping them up, getting ready for that match, going out, you know, kind of. The first time I guess was more about calming them down so they weren't too nervous. We thought we were a better team. And the second time was about hyping them up because they beat them once, and it was about, like, you know, really getting the job done. And then this time was kind of more or less like, just relax. You guys, we think you're a better team. Just go out and wrestle the way you can wrestle. Be calm, be confident, and right things are going to happen for you. Just be patient. And, you know, you guys have been training long and hard, and nothing's going to be different this year. It's not about being overhyped and exhausted and things like that. It's about going out and trusting your conditioning, because everything had pointed to them not being in better shape than us, you know, and we were very confident in our conditioning every year. So, and this was a year that we wrestled them early, you know, and they just didn't seem like they quite had the conditioning we had. So we were very confident later in matches we were going to score points and we were going to win. And if you can be in the third period with somebody, then you're in the match, you know, kind of thing. So that was the idea. If you're in a match with a guy who's a little bit better than you in the third period, you're in a 2-3 point match, you're in the match, you can win. So, you know, that was our philosophy: be calm, be patient, and in the third period, we'll go after them. Like, we're in condition and we're going to get them late in matches. We're just going to hammer away at them and we'll score points then.
Now, obviously, you know, you guys had that big win, and then things change. You know, you guys get called by what I understand. Explain to me what happened. You know, there's obviously rumors going around, but obviously somebody tested, the health department shut you guys down. Just talk about that and just kind of what happened.
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, one kid had some symptoms. You know, he tested positive, and it really doesn't take that much. I mean, in this climate and society we're in right now, it doesn't take much. You know, we've done some things obviously to keep kids separate, but, you know, you can only do so much. And you know, our guys are very close to each other. They're very tight knit, and you're playing a dangerous game with that. It's you keep everyone apart and you kind of ruin your team aspect, and you have like all these individual pods and things like that. And I know a lot of teams have done that. You know, they've had these 3 or 4 kids together, and they're the only 3 to touch each other and talk to each other, and they're the only ones who are near each other. And I mean, we tried some of that in the beginning, but it's just not North. You know, it's just not the same way we wrestle. We wrestle as a community. We wrestle as a team. We're better as a team, you know, than as one single unit. And I mean, if that means that sometimes they're running sprints next to each other, that means they're running sprints next to each other. And you know, do I think most of our kids are fine? Absolutely. But we're, you know, this is a different type of year. And unfortunately, we're shut down for something that, you know, probably doesn't affect most of our kids, but that's where we're at. And we're shut down for, you know, 10 days minimum, maybe 14. I don't know. I guess it's up to the school to decide at this point. But, you know, I'm sure our guys will train on their own, run and being conditioned, and we'll do stuff, and, you know, they'll be ready when the time comes. And I guess if you had to get shut down, this isn't, I guess, the worst time to get shut down. We got the beginning of the season in, take a couple of weeks off here, and then we have, you know, week and a half or so to train and get ready for the region. So there's worse times, I guess, if you had to get shut down.
Now, you with that as far as well, I know you guys, you would have had one more conference match, correct? I think you had, I don't know who, I don't remember what the team was. It wasn't Montgomery. It was one more. You
We had two. We actually moved. We had three. We had Ridge, Bridgewater, because we moved Bridgewater up, and Warren Hills just came back in, but they're not actually in our conference, but they're in our conference, but not our division. So Ridge was in our division. Bridgewater and Warren Hills weren't, but they're both in our conference still. We pulled both of them up to next week, so we would have had our only 4-match week, which you're allowed one next week was our schedule, because this is would have been probably what would have been our last week of really competing, all of our guys. Or 14 days out of the regionals, and our plan was, tentatively 14 days out of the regionals, we're probably not competing anybody who is probably already in, unless there was like a really big match for that kid that may help them. So we were our plan was to put a skeleton team out for anywhere after that. And if we lost duels, we lost duels, it was what it was, but we're going to, this is a weird year, you got to do the best you can for your individuals, because there's no team title,
Yeah. It has to change how it is. Cause I'm like, what I mean? With everything going on, it's like, what does it matter if you wind up losing 1 or 2 duels if you got kids going down? Cause it's not going to matter for PowerPoint. I mean, you might drop in the New Jersey Wrestling Writers Association poll since you guys were number 1, but I think I've worked that around. I got some connections over there. But
we weren't, at the end of the day, like we had talked about as a staff, hey, if they drop us because we wrestled half a JV team and whatever, then it is what it is.
It's understandable.
Those guys, our backups get varsity experience. They'll get ready for next year. We're not concerned about where we end up ranked at the end of the year. We're concerned about, this is this year, especially like this year, you don't have a team title. So if you don't have a team title, then you want to put as many guys in the regions as possible, and you want to put as many guys in the states as possible. So if that's the end goal of the season, then you have to wrestle as if that's your goal. So you might have to make sacrifices for a team, occasionally for individuals. It's different.
Now, with you having the limited time, obviously, and everything beforehand, you have a couple division matches you have to make up. How are you going to squeeze those in? Because obviously, how would that work? Because right now, if you guys go right in the regions, you're leading the division, but you still have some matches. Would that be considered a forfeit? Well, I don't know. How would they consider? What do they consider that for how it would work?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Am I throwing you on the bus? I'm giving you a question. You don't know. It's like, okay.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even know. I haven't even approached that question. I have no idea. And we're honestly, realistically, by the time we're back, we're within our 2-week window that we really don't want to be competing in anyway. And most likely we're not making up any matches. So if we lose a division title or something because of that, then it is what it is. I'm not going to sacrifice, and I don't think most coaches would do this either. We're not going to sacrifice a kid who's a senior or junior or whatever, who has a shot at getting in the state tournament and has a shot at maybe getting on a podium for some, BS division title because in a COVID era and whatever. We're not going to do that. You got to get these guys. We have kids who have aspirations of something higher, and you guys that shot.
Now, finally, talking about that a little bit with bringing everybody in, have you guys been given as coaches some sort of idea on how people are going to be chosen? Is it just going to be obviously it's going to be head-to-head stuff like that, but is there any type of blueprint for how they're just going to choose, or is it just going to be a group of people together pulling names for everything? Because that's the one thing I've always heard from fans is it previous, obviously, because if it's previous it hurts freshmen. If it's this, is there any type of guidelines on how they're going to choose people?
Yeah, there's more coming out right now. I mean, I'm our seating chair for Region 4 this year. So me and a couple guys that
lucky you.
We're the seating, not the selection committee. So no one's going to burn my house down, hopefully, because of that. I'm going to see the guys that are already pre-selected.
We got to clarify that because we want to make sure people aren't coming after you. If something
exactly. No one come burn my house down because they didn't get in, right? It's not my fault. But I will help see the tournament, obviously. But so it's going to be interesting. and from what I'm hearing, and again, this is what I'm hearing, is, the districts will select what they think is their top 3 kids. And those top 3 kids will go on to that region, and then all those kids get selected into the regions, and then the region seeding committee seeds them. And the top 16 wrestle. The rest, there's 24 kids. The rest are alternates. If somebody's sick or something can't come in, they just slide up. There's no reseeding, and that's that. Now, it's interesting though, because you can't. Their philosophy is they want to find the top kids in the state and get them to the podium, right? Which is understandable, right? They give the kids who are the best kids in the state the chance to place. They don't want to mess with those kids, which is understandable, right? That's the goal. That's always the goal of the state tournament, is to identify the best kids. So the goal of the tournament, and the way they're outlining it now, is to identify the best kids. And I know they're skipping some steps in that process, right? But most of the time, a kid who takes a district 3rd is not winning or not placing in the state, right? Like, there have been very few district 3rds, I think, maybe ever.
There's some exceptions. I agree 100%. I mean, there's been a couple where
there's a couple, but
a few years ago, right? Maybe it might have been like District 9, where you had like a really good Hanover Park. I think that's rare, but I agree 100% with what you're saying.
So the goal is, hey, you select your top 3 in your district. Your top 3 in your district go to your region, and then they seed all those kids. So, like, even if you're a 3rd in the district, if you're a good kid, you'll get seeded appropriately, and you get a chance to wrestle in the region, right? Because, anybody who's like a 7, 8, 5, 6 kid in the district, you've never heard of that kind of seed of a kid placing in the state tournament. Like we've heard of a low region seed coming through and placing, but you've never heard of a district 6, 7, 8 kid probably placing. I've never heard of one. It's just not very common, right? Or realistic. So
super exception. It's like it's super rare.
So the idea is the state wants to have a tournament. They want to identify the top 8 kids in the state. They want to make sure they get the top 8 kids in the state there and work backwards. They want to find everyone else who's going to compete with that top 8 kids. They want to give the top 8, 10, 16 kids a shot at placing in the state and work their way down from there. And if somebody upsets them along the way, that's great. Hey, good for that kid. But the kid who's, 120th in the state, maybe he doesn't qualify, maybe he doesn't make a region quarterfinal, but that's not their concern. They want to have the state tournament be legit, which is understandable. It is, like they want the kids who deserve to be there in that top tier to get there. And you're probably not going to get that 1 or 2 kids who qualifies for states that nobody saw coming, right? But those kids,
like that kid that just comes out from nowhere, winds up finishing 2nd or something, or making 3rd, 4th, and you're like, wow, we never expected that, and they go down and they lose the first day.
Exactly, because they have a good region tournament, they place, they go down to states, but they're usually not a state place winner type of kid. They qualify, that was their goal. They have maybe they get a match or 2 under them, and that's it. Right? So they're not concerned about the kid who's going to get a match or 2 under them at states. They're concerned about placing the top 8 kids appropriately, right? They want a true top 8 to get there, which is understandable, right? And that super region is going to be hard. It's going to be really, really hard. I know ours it's ridiculous. I'm just looking at every weight that I'm on the seating committee, so I'm going through it every week, and I know who's there, and those weights are crazy. It's a mini state tournament. You have 7 or 8 state qualifiers in every single weight class, and you're only taking 4. So if you're a 16 seed, you're in trouble, right? So just qualifying for the region really isn't enough. Usually you qualify and maybe you fight your way through that first couple of rounds, you drop back and you can battle and maybe a kid that's not happening. This is not happening. It's just, it's just not realistic this year. If you're a 16 seed, you're going against a 1 seed, and you're not going to see too many 16 seeds upset a 1 seed in a super region, right? I'll be surprised if there's one.
Yeah, that would be shocking. That's just one we're just completely forgetting, or it's something oblivious, or for whatever reason, it's like some 106 and they have like everything, and some freshman you don't know, and it's like, oh wow, like shocking. But yeah, I understand.
Yeah, of course, and that's where they're they left some leeway, right? So the way they've worded it to me is it's going to be the seeding criteria is the same as it's always been: previous advancement, head to head, all that type of stuff. But then they left a little bit of leeway for like the freshman kid who maybe was in Super 32s last year or like some big tournament, and they gave some leeway to that type of kid to what they call like a wild card in. Mm-hmm. So that kid will have some sort of, I don't know exactly where they want to place it yet. They haven't given us that guidance, but they're going to leave something to the seating committee to decide where they want to place that kid appropriately.
Okay.
So they're going to leave something open for a kid who's a freshman, especially for those lightweights, right? Like the 106, 113, like you're those kids that are just really good kids that have no previous advancement because that's their first year in high school. Mm-hmm. And they've won a bunch of national level tournaments and things like that. Like, you've got to seed that kid somewhere. You can't just throw them in as a 15 seed or a 16 seed because there's a couple of sophomores who were there before them, right? Like, that's just not appropriate. So they're going to give the seeding committees some sort of leeway with those types of kids. What exactly that's going to be, I don't know. That leeway might be anything after previous advancement. You can put them in there. You can't place them anywhere above an 8 seed. I don't know what it's going to be. They haven't given us that kind of guidance yet.
Well, it is going to be interesting because obviously with everything going on, it's never going to be correct. It's almost like I was joking with somebody about how this year is going to be like how they used to do it with the national championship for football. There's always going to be somebody on the outside who says, wait a minute, I could have had a shot, but you guys are always going to do the best you can. Nobody. I was going to say nobody's going to blame you. You're going to get blamed. So just
of course, there's no doubt. It's as soon as they asked me to be on the seating, they were like, well, you're going to be both the selection and the seating. I said, I don't really want to be on the selection. I said, someone's going to burn my house down if I don't pick their kid. Like, I don't want to be in that.
You want me to flash your address on the bottom just so people know where to go to like throw stuff?
Yeah, perfect, easy. Yeah, just let them know where to come.
We'll have Jared do that. We'll have a flash. You'll get like don't answer your doorbell because there's going to be hundreds of bags of dog poo on fire.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, seating's pretty straightforward. Like for the most part, you have your previous advancement, you have head-to-head wins, and then there's going to be those obscure kids that you'll have to place. Sure. But there's not that many of those kids. There's a few kids, that you got to place and you've got to find a spot for. But outside of that, your previous advancement and stuff is going to dictate most of it, from my understanding, right? And that's the clearest indicator. And you're going to find in our region tournaments that, at least in our region, and I'm sure it's going to be the same case in others, that you've got 7 or 8 state qualifiers already. So like most of the top 16 have previous advancement. You're looking for those couple of outlier freshmen that belong in there, and that's it.
It's gonna I don't envy you guys, especially with the selection committee and the seating, because I can only imagine just how tough it's going to be. But listen, Coach, thank you for taking time. I know it's been a hectic week for you. Go enjoy yourself and relax a little bit if you can.
We'll try.
Thanks a lot, Coach. Thanks, Coach, for taking the time. I know it's been a real, like I said, stressful week. You've always been helpful and taking time. You introduced me to Jared, the podcasting legend. So, I don't know if I can hold that against you, or we'll figure it out. But one last thing I want to do before we head out, obviously as we're heading towards stretch run, we should be getting another great week of wrestling next week. I'll have some matches to kind of watch next week if they happen. I mean, the way everything's going, you don't know what's going to happen until they're actually out on the mat. That's the weirdest thing this year, is looking at results I have on the schedule or upcoming matches. And I actually got to wait till I see a score or I know somebody's on the mat because you don't know if it's happening. But the one thing I'll kind of highlight on is we talking about with COVID, and obviously we've talked a little bit about how it's affected. The one thing that I think is funny is our governor, what do I call him? Oh yeah, Gap Tooth pumpkin-headed dipshit. The guy who said there's going to be no virtual learning in the fall. Hey, moron, how about you stop having virtual learning now? How about that? Remember 2 weeks? 2 weeks back to normal? What do I get? It's a politician. They're the same ones that spent $7,000 on a hammer for me to use in the Navy when I could have went down to Home Depot and got one for 25 cents. They don't know how to do math. They don't know how to take up time. They don't know how to do anything. But then Murphy's going to look down on us with his big old crown and his stupid face and his ugly friggin' head and his dumbass glasses, him and that moron up north above him, friggin' Cuomo and his asshole brother, Fredo Tough, Chris Cuomo, stupid moron. I'm sick of these sons of bitches. So you know what I'm doing? I don't know what I'm doing yet, but Brower's running for something. I'll be in charge. I've taken charge of this webcast. I've taken charge of my family. I've taken charge of everything else. I have kept everybody in grips, and I'm going to run for something. I don't know what yet, but I'm running because if this could be a governor and that could be a governor, I could grab asses. Hey, I could grab some too and be a governor. Can I be Cuomo? My wife's not going like that. I didn't mean that. I mean, that wasn't meant. That was not for you. I didn't mean that. But I'm a politician, so I can apologize, and I'm allowed to do stuff like that. See what I did there? But listen, everybody just go out there. We're kind of getting towards the end of this for the most part. You know, most schools are going back to normal. Obviously, it's not really going to be back to normal for a couple months, but or in case of this government, 3 years. But everybody be safe. Everybody have fun. And from the podcasting legend, Jarrett, and I'm not going to forget Jacob, his assistant. I don't know if that's true, Jacob. I didn't mean to insult you by calling you assistant. Jacob, I'm Donald J. Brower. We'll see you next week.